Welcome to HBCU Drumline Talk. My name is Ricardo Reese, and I'm joined by my brother in percussion, EP the Great, also known as Elijah Powell. And we're doing something different tonight. We're actually going live tonight. We got some great guests on tonight. And what we're doing tonight is that there's been a common conversation that keeps coming up. And this is coming up throughout the HBCU drumline world. And it specifically deals with the MEAC and the SWAC and what is the differences. So we like to title this live episode as the MEAC versus SWAC. We're talking about drumline specific. So we want you guys to sit back. We got a couple of guests on here. They're going to introduce themselves to really address the issues and address some questions and really set the standard here at this point in time about our conversation. So I'm gonna let them take over. Who wants to go first?
Guess I'll go first. My name is Keon Galloway. I represent myself, former percussion instructor at Hampton University, as well as Livingstone College, founder and former president of Snare Sci-Fi Incorporated. And now I currently have my after-school drum and dance program, Charlotte Elite.
Oh, good, thank you.
I'll go next. I'm Clyde Fraser III, graduate of South Carolina State University, member of the Mighty Bongo Brothers Incorporated. I was percussion instructor at South Carolina State in 2006. I've been interim percussion instructor at Benedict College in 2 years, as well as I taught at a lot of South Carolina high schools. Currently, I'm a freelance percussion instructor and a percussion consultant in South Carolina, as well as I'm behavior interventionist, Sumter County School District, and I'm the CEO of Partly Cloudy Live Band Entertainment in South Carolina.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
I guess I'll go. All right. I'm Miko Shoulders, originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Marched a year at TSU. I'm a graduate of Jackson State University. I'm a member of Mu Phi Sigma National Percussion Fraternity Incorporated. I consider to be snare drum tech. I've given material to Lane College, Alcorn State. I was once the drum instructor at Jim Hill High School in Jackson. I'm a professional drummer out here, recording drummer out here in the DMV area. That's about it.
All right, Larry and Trice, representing Trice Percussion, originally from Missouri City, Texas. Went to Prairie View, marched in the PV McFunk box, grad 2006, got my bachelor's in music education. Then I went to the good old state of Mississippi and got my master's from the University of Southern Mississippi. And then I taught in Beaumont for 4 years as assistant band director / percussion director. And now I'm currently at Austin High School in Houston ISD as assistant band director / percussion instructor. I also do judging, clinics, all types of drum stuff. If you got a kid that want to learn, then percussion starts here.
Cool.
Okay. Good
Cool,
stuff.
man.
Good stuff. So we're not gonna waste no time. So the main question, I guess if you're HBCU drummer or follow that, it's little, I guess, conversation going on about the MEAC, SWAC. People saying that SWAC sound the same, all SWAC schools sound the same, and all MEAC schools sound the same, vice versa. So the first question is, how do you feel about that? I guess your opponents, or not opponents, but that's conference saying, we all sound the same. And anybody can go first.
I'll go first. For me, I guess what I could say towards it, I guess the notion of conferences sounding the same is I used to be a victim of that. Being that I grew up core style, strictly core style, like the true meaning, like straight up, nothing funky, like all that good stuff. And I didn't really get introduced to show style till I went to college. But coming in, I used to I used to put both sides, you know, I wasn't even really about conferences. I just used to think it all sounded the same until I started learning the nuances behind everybody's playing style. So even when I was in the MEAC conference, I used to think that the SWAC sounded the same at a point in time until I started gaining more friends from there and started learning nuances and more of the culture of things, why they do things, and then learning those nuances. So I guess for me, I don't really see where people sound the same. And I understand people even play some of the same material. I know little nuances, little remixes here and there or whatever, little nuances over the years have changed it, but I'm just not a component or a fan that the conferences do sound the same, not MEAC or the SWAC, you know, from what I've heard. Because once you start grouping lines together, nobody really can really ever answer that. Well, put these lines together that do sound alike. And even those lines will tell you we don't sound alike. So I don't really think they sound alike, but I do understand where people are coming from that. And I think most people are talking about preference, things that the conference prefer to do, like high tension, the tuning of the drums, but it's not necessarily the same heads the same way. People are just grouping stylistic things that they see, the way we wear drums, the tempos of cadences, just the type of material that we playing on, Kevlar versus Mylar, changes your approach to how you're gonna play or put percussive parts inside of a passage of music.
All right, who we got next? Omiko, you ready?
I guess I'll go next. I agree with Clyde. I think it comes down to like the type of tuning that you're doing. Specifically, I'm going to speak for SWAC. Most SWAC schools have, you know, not necessarily a deep, but I guess a lower tuning when it comes to like the snares and probably even the quints, definitely tenor drums. And we all have drops, or most of us, yeah, we all have drops for basses, you know, and it's more of a groove type of thing, a groove and a funk type of thing going on in the SWAC. And like, if you are listening for everybody to sound the same, more than likely they're going to sound the same to you. But if you really are able to identify each school just based off the sound, regardless of how they tune, like you could put every SWAC school around me and I can close my eyes, and when one plays, I'm going to know exactly who it is, just because I know how the drum sound. I know how they develop their material. I guess it's just because I'm listening for it. As far as the MEAC, I may be able to do that for a few schools, but that's only because I'm not just fully aware of everyone's sound, right? That's what I have to say.
Good point. Thank you.
I'll chime in. Oh,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro.
All right. So I agree with Miko and Clyde as well. Nobody sounds the same, and we got to think of it. We got to think of it even deeper than what we're really meaning when we say it sounds the same. So when you're tuning a drum, you only have how many sets of notes to really tune to the drum. So we really only got A through G. So when you're trying to differentiate on how many colleges and universities we're trying to chime in and talk about, how many colleges are going to use the A on their drum, or how many colleges are going to use B flat or anything like that. So drums tuning sounding the same is not really having a section sounding the same, because at the end of the day, it's not that many notes you can tune a drum to. So when it comes to tuning in the SWAC, like Nico said, snare drums are usually lower, and in some schools, and then the bass drums as well. Some schools tenor drums tune up high because we have a thing where we knock it down. So we knock it down to the pitch that we do want it to be, just because of our conference is full of, you know, very brassy sounds. When you get to the MEAC, you're more listening to an ensemble sound. So the drumline has to mimic that as well. That's why a lot of people in the MEAC said you need to be heard, not felt. I mean, felt, not heard, my bad. So you need to be felt, not heard, because they're coming from an ensemble aspect. When in the SWAC, we're coming from more of a brassier sound, more on the edge. So it would kind of be like the difference between playing jazz and the difference between playing rock. When you're playing rock, the drummer needs to be heard. When you're playing jazz, the drummer needs to be felt. All right. So the tuning of these drums for the drum set for rock and the tuning for jazz are two different sounds and two different feelings and two different, ways that you're gonna play. So sounding the same, no. Do we play like Clyde said? We play some of the same material, but we switch it up. Me and Clyde talk about this all the time. It comes down to rhythms, and nobody owns rhythms. So when you play a rhythm, you can't expect that somebody's supposed to know that that's your rhythm and that's how you're gonna play it. So I mean, I definitely don't agree that everybody sounds the same or anything like that. I just said categorizing it because of just the conferences alone, but I mean, you can definitely pull up videos and see each one has a different snare tuning. I don't think nobody in the SWAC has the same exact snare tuning, because I think for the lowest tune would be probably Southern, and then the highest tune would be probably PV. Right, Mika?
That's a fact.
That's a good point. Thank you.
I agree with everybody. Oh, sorry. I agree with everybody, but I think I can't speak for every MEAC school because I'm an Aggie, and we tune to what we have in the band. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how they do it in the SWAC, whether it's do their tuning change every year, or is it this specific every single year? But sometimes you have to tune how your band is. You know what I mean? I've seen numerous of SWAC style lines that, let's just use Southern for example, 12 snares, 6 basses, 6 tenors, 12 cymbals. You know what I'm saying? You got all these drummers, and let's just say the band was small. So are you going to change how you tune your drums to compensate the band size, to at least make it a little bit more blend and balance, or are you going to implement dynamic changes, which is cool? But I still agree with all three of them. When you think about MEAC style drumming, I can't even really say that there's a specific style, because FAMU drums don't sound nothing like Bethune drums at all. Norfolk drums don't sound nothing like V-State drums. Shoot, North Carolina Central don't sound nothing like A&T drums. So when people say MEAC all sound the same, I think it goes back to what I think Clyde said when he said it's a preference. When you explain the MEAC, you say what? Rim shots and stick tricks. That's when MEAC, rim shot, pow, 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 high tension, stick tricks. When you say SWAC, what you say? Bump. So it's not like more or less they sound the same. They just using sound the same as just some stuff to say. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows, like Miko said, he can put all the SWAC drum lines around the circle, close his eyes, and point at who he know was playing, because that's what he grew up listening to. If he grew up in that rim and how they grew up playing that style of drumming or whatever, and he knows UAPV sound different from Bama State. How do you know? Well, one, they tenor drums is high on Bama State, and their snare drum tension is a little bit higher than your normal. Same if you got Prairie View beside Texas Southern, you're gonna know the difference, but I just think people just start to use that they sound the same thing as a cop-out. Because if you know, you know what I mean? That's just me personally.
Yeah, gentlemen, that was all some great points. You guys all really talked about some good things. EP, you got anything to chime in on that?
Nah, man, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna save my thoughts to the end.
Yeah. So just as the host here, we're going to actually hold our thoughts until we get to the end of this. So let's talk about the second thing I want to talk about. And Keon, you pretty much mentioned a key word. It's bump style. So for the folks that are familiar with the SWAC style of playing, please describe the difference in sound, the drum sound, and more importantly, really to our viewers out there who don't know, what does the term bump mean? And please describe to the folks that are in the MEAC what your sound specifically is. How would you really describe that MEAC sound?
As far as the swag, when it comes to, I'll be honest, when it comes to bumping, I would say that everybody doesn't bump, right? The term bump came from Memphis. And if you know anything about Memphis, or yeah, if you know about anything about Memphis, you know about Tennessee State, right? Like Memphis and Tennessee State had a lot of people that came from Memphis. Like they have like a specific sound, and what you would notice right now is in the traditional drum culture, a lot of people are bumping now. And that's because a lot of Memphis influence has gone to these schools. They, became leaders in the section and they wanted it to feel like home, right? So when it comes to bumping, like bumping is when you like this, like you're gonna nod your head. It's making like Charlie said, you feel it. Um, and for most schools, you're gonna feel what they're doing, and it's like you feel it because of the groove and you feel it because you actually feel this vibration. Um, as far as like the tuning and everything, the tuning, again, everybody does a bump. Like Texas Southern doesn't bump, but they're very funky, right? Like the way they write their material, like it's more funk. You got funk that comes out of WT, but for the most part, they bumping over there. Same with a lot of other schools. Anyway, the tuning of the drums caters to the development of the, the tuning of the drum caters to the sound of the cadence. So Keon said one day, he was like, if you put WT on NCAT drums, you put NCAT on WT drums, who will win? When it comes to something like that, NCAT writes for the sound of their drums. WT writes for the sound of their drums. So once they're developing this in their minds, they already know how this is going to sound on their drum. Like probably making the cadence, it's like they're going to feel this one, And when they debut the cadence, it does exactly what, everyone thinks it should do, right? WT has a cadence called FTB. Everybody knows that this is probably one of the most bumpingest cadences in SWAC culture. And if you guys ever want to take a listen, just type in WT FTB. That is the definition of bumping.
There it is. Case closed. Got it.
I guess I'll chime in since I'm the other SWAC guy.
Yeah.
But me being from Texas, I had to learn bump. So talking with Miko, my WT buddy Justin Sherrod, we was at Southern Miss together. Vince from Whitehaven, Pops from Fairleigh, and just talking to them and understanding. And what I came to the consensus of it is, I mean, even though you got the tuning aspect of what Miko was talking about, but it's typically bumping is basically a conversation piece. And it's about how certain sections react off each other in a certain sense. So it's about how you set up everything. Usually we have normal fills or we have normal buildups and everything like that. But bumping is a certain situation where, like you said, once that conversation starts speaking, then you have no choice but to start bumping your head and you start bobbing your head. So it's all about conversation, and you can probably have, like, for for example, if you taught Norfolk FTB, would they portray that conversation the same as Jackson State would portray it? You know, because maybe the rhythms wouldn't be a certain way. And it's kind of like, if you want to piggyback on what Clyde was talking about with DCI, a lot of people don't understand DCI talks about the same thing, East Coast to West Coast, with diddle quality and how rows are going and everything like that. So certain East Coast do different interpretations of diddles the same way. So Norfolk might interpret a groove totally different because of how they want to play it, different than Jackson State. So it doesn't matter if it's on paper and they can read it. It's about the interpretation of what they're giving off and what they want it to sound like and what they want the listener to feel. And that's what the definition I got from all the buddies, because I had to learn it myself because I didn't know it. So talking to all those guys and you know, just using the knowledge and everything like that, I got a great understanding for it. And so I like it. And I like everybody's stuff. But I feel like if you can't learn it and understand it and break the science down of it, then you really can't appreciate it.
Points. Thank you.
I guess to me, the MEAC, you got some like kind of like what Larry was saying was about approaching it from an ensemble. That's kind of how we approach it because of the drums at hand. You know, there are tonal bases in SWAC because you have high membrane, low membrane drums having that high tone, low tone conversation. But usually in most MEAC drums, we're running, you know, full tonal, some lines 16, sometimes they might march a 16, you know, as a bass drum versus somebody playing a 16 as like a tenor drum. You know what I'm saying? 18, and that thing's running back 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, all the way down into the 30s. So being able to orchestrate as a bass line, it gives you a whole, it gives you a different element to be able to approach playing drums. And a lot of times when you hear in the MEAC conversation, it's the roles of our drums. So we put our drums sort of in different roles. So like a lot of time our quad players, our multi-tenor players are melodic snare drums. They help move the voice of the snare drum by being able to play the same material that they play, but be able to have that conversation on their drums. Whereas SWAC, the role of their multi-tenors are usually sort of the role of the tonal bass drums, where they carry the melodic passage for the rhythmic side of the whole drum line. Like they're responsible for the melodic passages besides having the high tone and the low tone. So our roles, I think it's more so the roles that we use. Bass drums really change the whole game. We don't really give as much appreciation to tonal bass drums as we always give to people who playing most of the notes, snares. But tonal bass drums really change the game, and I think that's one of the biggest differences between the MEAC and the SWAC. And it's not so much to say like what people are playing, but versus the roles that they can have.
These conversations, to me, sometimes I'd be like, I can be biased, but, you know, I just tell it like it is. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, just to piggyback off of just bass drums, I feel, me personally, when it comes to that, the MEAC got that, hands down. We got it when it comes to that. One thing I teach my bass drummers is drum independence. And that's basically you knowing exactly what your role is in your line and what you're supposed to do as an individual bass drum. Toning wise, it varies. You got Norfolk with them clear what they got ring modes, I think. Their tuning is great. Their
Norfolk
tuning is great.
they changed it though.
They got they went to black ebonies, right?
Yeah, they switched it when
Yeah.
they went to.
They went to black ebonies last year. I heard them because I used to live around the corner from their school, and I went by there and heard their drums. I was like, okay, something sounds different about Norfolk, and they went all black everything except for their sixes. But you know, it's that discussion when it comes to like the tuning of drums, and it's just that subject is just kind of like a preference subject, honestly. Me personally, I want to go ahead. I'm gonna get straight to it. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I don't think as a unit there are a few SWAC drumlines that can touch your top tier MEAC schools. Just a few. A few, I can name some. Jackson State. I love their writing. I love how they, like, Jackson State is my favorite SWAC drumline, hands down. It is my favorite. I love their tuning. I love how, like, you can hear everybody's voice. I love how they manipulate the voices by taking their bass drums and facing them forward because they want you to hear their snares. But I don't know if they're really thinking like that, but that's just me when I'm listening to them. That's just how I'm thinking of it. Prairie View, Texas Southern, Tennessee State. That's all I can think of that can touch your Bethune-Cookmans, your V-States, your Norfolks, your Hamptons, your South Carolina State in their era. You know what I'm saying? Your A&Ts. Like, there's not many that can go that distance. And then when you talk about bumping, to me, I listen to Talladega battle. What's that? I don't know. What's the white core style school that everybody be battling all the time?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. I seen Talladega playing against them. Yeah, I wasn't impressed by Jacksonville. I wasn't impressed. They played regular stuff. It was clean. Some stuff was clean. But then when you got Talladega to play, they played. But to me, it was like, I'm going to play funk the whole time. If you play a playlist with all funk music, it's going to sound like all funk music. Yes, it's different artists, but it's still going to be funk versus having a variety of things to play. So when they played something, it was very repetitive. Like they've had that same little loop back and like over and over and over and over and over and over. And the only changes were the cymbal part and the snare drum part. So I just want to kind of like, I'm a MEAC all day. I'm going to be MEAC. I'm going to be Cold Steel. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the MEAC has more variety when it comes to composition and even when it comes to just showmanship and just shows, period. That's where I'm going with this conversation with my SWAC guys.
I got.
I'm gonna piggyback after me. Go ahead, man.
You said Hampton. You said Hampton. You said only a few schools can touch Hampton.
Yeah, I know there's some few that can touch Hampton. If I would have stayed there 2 more years, it wouldn't have been no. It would have been no.
I put Alcorn on Hampton.
They funky.
I put Gremlin on Hampton. I put Valley on Hampton. I put A&M on Hampton State. I put the whole SWAC on Hampton.
That's cool. That's cool. You pick one school. Who would touch Norfolk? Who would touch Norfolk?
The only school I put in front of Norfolk is Jackson, PV, and Texas Southern. Yeah,
I'll put Origin Crank, like when they was kicking, when Crank was really, really kicking. And to piggyback on what Keon was saying, what I will say about the MEAC is
the composition point. I will say that the composition point, because you have people actually writing. And from a person that does write, it is different when you get to write something and hear it than you making it up on right there, right then and there, and trying to make something sync. That's totally different when it comes to the composition. And that's something that I think the SWAC can learn from the MEAC. And if you don't have to copy the whole thing, but if I feel like if we just use some of those steps with the composition level, that it'll take it to a whole better level that they wouldn't even know, instead of just, oh man, we don't do it like that. But it doesn't matter. Anything that's going to take you to the next level should be, applied to your section. But I mean, I agree with Miko. Like a lot of these sections in the SWAC are coming up, but I'm pretty sure if we threw that situation, if I wrote something for any of these colleges, I can get it Norfolk, or I
Right.
can get it NCAT, or just the way on how I think and how I write and how I compose. It just takes that. But I mean, some different aspects. Some colleges don't have that percussion instructor like the others have that percussion instructor. You're not gonna always
But
have a Harvey, or you're not gonna always have a Harvey and Dr. Lawhorn at NCAT. That's a tag team duo.
But you got to understand, just because you got one don't mean that they actually active. And I'm not speaking on Harvey and Lawhorn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just period. You can have a percussion instructor that's super active. Like I was super active. I was at Hampton really 2 years. My first year, I was filling them out. The second year was the year before, the Honda Drumline.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I was with them during the fall season, and then I just was like, I'm gonna do something different. But when I was at A&T in 2004, we didn't have a percussion instructor. We had one. Ron Rogers was the percussion instructor, but he wasn't the percussion instructor.
Yeah,
he wasn't the one writing the music.
The one writing the music. Yeah, we got that
we
too.
Were. You know what I'm saying? So
same thing at PV. So I totally understand. And there's different strokes at different schools. It's just saying, because
exactly.
I marched in 06, so we seen A&T, and what was that, 07?
07.
Yeah, in Cali. And so, like I said, it's the same thing. Like our percussion instructor on paper was Larry Jones, but Larry Jones wasn't writing none of the material that we were playing at all. So
it kind of goes down to composition too.
Big time.
Like you said, you can write material for anybody. Anybody. You can be. I put on Percussion Connection one day. I was like, yo, what are we going to expect this year? You know what? Let me write something for somebody outside of who I normally write for, because I'm not going to change how I write. How I write is how I write. If it's funky, it's funky. If it groove, it groove. If it got a good composition to it where there's some meaty parts, yes, if your drum line ain't got tonal drums, I can't do the tonal part, but I will think of how to manipulate the sound, just like Clive said with the tenor drums. I mean, with the multi-tenor drums at for SWACs, they use as running parts. But I don't know. That's just me.
Okay, some good points, gentlemen. Thank you.
So, I guess, what are 3 things you guys would change about the other conference? So, if you MEAC, what would you change about the SWAC? If you SWAC, what would you change about, 3 things you would change?
I would rather them be more, have a little bit more showmanship, just so that it ain't all about drumming for the drummers. You know what I'm saying? The average person don't know what a paddle fly, Swiss Army triplet, flam drag, inverted cheese is. Don't nobody know what that is. They just hear stuff. I would want them to be more entertaining and have a little bit more showmanship. I wouldn't change nothing else about them. I love the SWAC style. I love how they funky groove, and I love the call and response stuff. So that's really the only thing I would change, is for them to be a little bit more entertaining.
Okay. Miko, you got something?
If I could change anything about, we talking about the opposite conference, right?
Either or. Either or. Both, yeah.
If I could change anything about the swag, I probably would change. I would enhance our quints because a lot of our quints give into this bumping thing, and like they just fill in the empty spots rather than playing along with the snares, And I think like while a lot of our quint players are good, they limit themselves by trying to stick to this, I don't know, this traditional way, I guess. But I think our quints could be much better. I guess we could do a little more shows. We could entertain a little more. On the MEAC side, I want them to put down this, you gotta do a show. And so you can see us, like stand with us, cadence for cadence. Let's see what happens. You saw what happened to Virginia State against Lane.
What
That first
happened?
round, I will
What
say
happened?
this though.
Huh?
In
V,
Hampton,
V State's V State's first round was phenomenal. Like I have to give them that. But everything after that, it was a butt kicking. That battle the next day with Hampton was very good though. That was very good. I didn't expect that from Hampton. That was pretty good. But there's Lane. We gotta get you in front of Jackson State. We gotta get you in front of our people that really. No, Lane does this, but it's a different look. It's a different thing when you standing there in front of Jack. You standing there in front of Funk Train. Like a lot of people sleep on Funk Train. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what we'll change. And I just changed the MEAC perspective. So I've met people in the MEAC that just saw me, knew I went to a SWAC school, was like, oh, you trash. And, they played tenor drum. And so I'm like, okay. So we started running some singles, and I did a single 5 and he couldn't do it. I'm like, oh, we don't have anything else to talk about. So I will make those guys practice their rudiments more. That's it.
Cool. So, Mr. Trice, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of Keon and Miko. The first thing I would say is, and I know a lot of people say this. So in the SWAC, I know they try to get on us because our solos are harder than our material, or we don't put our solos in our material. And I feel like we should be able to do that. Like I don't feel that you should be playing a hard solo, and then when you get to a bump, you're playing a groove through the whole cadence. Like that is nonsense. You should not your solos should not be the hardest thing that you're playing. It should not be the test of your hands. And then when you play with your drum line, then basically you're just keeping a 2 and 4. Like there should be difficulty, and that goes along with for the SWAC tempo. Like a lot of our schools fall to this aspect of when you bump, it has to be slow, and it does not have to be slow. I mean, it's different ways to bump. It's different. It's different tempos when it comes to funk or grooving or anything. Um, so for the MEAC, y'all put everything in y'all cadences, and it's fine. And then somebody tell you play a double paradiddle and add the accent there, and all of a sudden you look like you ain't never played a drum in your life. And this is not to piggyback on anybody, anything like that. I don't want y'all arguing in the PC because y'all criticize the wrong thing. And instead of having a healthy conversation about it, y'all like to ridicule the situation instead of just saying, look, how about we get on this and y'all get on that, and let's just see, how we, uplift the game at the end of the day, because we might be going back and forth at it, but at the end of the day, it's a whole nother picture that's looking at us like y'all don't know what the hell y'all doing. And what else? I'm with Miko on the quint parts. In Texas, we do a little bit of both. We play with the snares and we do some grooves. Yeah, your quint player should not be playing a groove the whole cadence. Like you got to up them chops. Like quint players should be knowing their rudiments just as much as they snare drum players. Yeah. For the MEAC, yeah, I would say change the perspective, and it's fine. And I understand because they put everything in their cadences. Also, we need to communicate. If you're seeing a drum line, why haven't the percussion directors communicated on what we're doing? We need to communicate totally better. If we're doing Lane versus Virginia State, hey, Kaz, what we doing? You want to do 3 rounds, or you want to do a show in 3 rounds, or we want to do this? How we doing solo? Like we got to be open to what everybody brings to the table. If a section likes to do solos, let them do solos. You can't be mad at that. If a section wants to do a show, do a show. I mean, you should want to uplift your section and to be ready for anything. That shows how limited we can be within our own tradition, as we say. So we should start enhancing on the shows, and we should start enhancing on the battles face to face. All right, y'all like doing shows, we like doing cadences. We'll make up a show, y'all bring y'all heat too on these cadences, and we're gonna have it like that. And it needs to be a conversation. If we can't have a conversation, then we're gonna continue to say we can't judge sections because they're 2 different styles, and that's weak. That's very weak. Because at the end of the day, if you sound like dirt and they don't sound like dirt, somebody won. I don't care if they're playing 8 or the hand. So those are some of the things I would change. I mean, I love what everybody else does and everything like that, but anything to enhance your section, your conference, or anything like that should be the most important thing on your mind. Staying stuck in your ways is the only reason why we're having these conversations in the first place.
Very good point, Mr. Trice. EP, you got anything to chime in on that?
Yeah, well, before we go on, Miko, it wasn't no thrashing on VSU half. Yes, Lane Snares came in and did their thing, but it wasn't no thrashing. So I just want to mention that. I want to say that.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
So, Clyde, did you have something that you wanted to chime in on?
I'm pretty much, everybody pretty much said it. You know what I'm saying? I guess anything I'll be saying will be piggybacking off of them. But I guess for both conferences, addressing both conferences would be, I guess, borrowing 3 concepts from the other conference. Like Larry said, this is why we having this conversation anyway, is because we're not borrowing concepts and not utilizing them. I would like to see the SWAC, the dexterity of the SWAC. I really feel like the SWAC people have some great, amazing hands just because of the culture of gritting rudiments and applying all the voices to them, applying diddles, accents, backstickings, cheeses, buzzes, taking the note out, playing the rest. That's a part of gritting too. But I feel like the application of that inside of the section doesn't show itself prevalent. You know what I'm saying? As dexterous as their hands are, from what they do in their culture, I don't feel like that it always show itself through the whole section. So I feel like I would want to change that about the SWAC, and vice versa. With the MEAC, as musical as we're calling it, I don't feel like it's any much more musical than the SWAC. It's just a different approach. But I feel like with it being that musical, I do know that a lot of us suffer with being able to verbalize that music, and that is the exact reason why when we have these across the board and conference talks, and they're going to challenge each other. And a lot of SWAC people point to, well, this is fundamental. This is a rudiment. This is the musical stuff you guys are pointing to, but you can't do it. But it shows itself prevalent inside of the musical passages we play, is because a lot of times we don't spend a lot of time working on the fundamentals. I know in our conference that there are a lot of people that can play the material, but they can't regurgitate it or they verbalize it. When I say regurgitate it, meaning they can't verbalize it, or it's hard to teach people. And a lot of times I will change about the MEAC is the fact that we a lot of times we consider playing a lot of notes to be the end all be all. You know what I'm saying? We consider playing a lot of notes there. I understand where it comes from being dexterous, but a lot of times I feel like a lot of sections have lost their groove or lose the groove at times because the implementation of trying to maximize how many notes we can stuff in a bar. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times that takes away from the stylistic approach of the music at times. So it's not always as musical as people give it credit, but I would change that about the MEAC too. And I feel like if we both conferences trade those concepts, then we would actually have some kind of common ground, you know what I'm saying, to actually like decipher and judge each other off of.
Man, you guys have really, and I will just say this personally, I think you guys have really articulated, all the questions that we have asked, and you really been able to explain the whole process behind, your thoughts and everything. So thank you for that. So as we get to our last kind of question, here pretty much ties it all in regards to, MEAC drumline versus a SWAC drumline. I want to take a different approach at this. I want to look at and just get you guys' opinion on, if we put this together into a major competition, you really sit aside, what would the judging criteria be, and how would you pick the judges to judge a competition like that?
Man,
It's a hard
I'll go
question.
over that because I deal with this every year, especially now that high schools, over the last handful of years, you start to see them the competitions crossbreed themselves. But in competitions, man, you're supposed to judge off of execution. You know what I'm saying? Like you can judge a rap show and judge a country show. It is totally two different forms of music, but it is music. Styles are just nothing but a collection of grouping of notes that happen repetitively that gives it an identity. You know what I'm saying? I can't play a one drop and call it reggae with my foot on 1 and 3. You know what I'm saying? I can't have a bass beat on that and call it a one drop. So when we stylistically approaching competitions, I feel like a lot of times we get judges that do that. Like I believe in, one way. I grew up in one culture, so I can't see the good in the other culture or what's bad sometimes. And a lot of times we're not judging these competitions off of consistency. You know what I'm saying? It's like watching a basketball game and we'll be like, oh man, this, somebody got the ankles busted in the second quarter and that was it. That was the highlight. But you had a whole game, 4 quarters. And we don't really judge people off of consistency. You get your name by what you do consistently. We don't consider Tom Brady, whoever quarterback you can name, to be great because they made all the passes. It's just when they consistently throw it, they consistently make the pass. And a lot of times we don't judge competitions off of like what people are doing consistently throughout the entire show. We'll pick a highlight and be like, oh, that snare solo, that jump, these snares were better than this. So a lot of times adjudicating the competitions be jacked up because we don't pick judges who solely judge off of execution and what people are doing consistently from the beginning to the end. You know what I'm saying? We'll be like, oh, they played harder material, but it was dirty. It was dirty. That spot was dirty. And you got this other line that may not have played harder material, but consistently through the show, they were clean. You know what I'm saying? The things that they're approaching, it was clean, So having some type of guideline that judges have, our judges need some type of guideline and criteria more than the lines who are performing having a criteria and guideline that they're judging off of, because if our community, we be jacking up some competitions with having people judging off of preference versus execution and consistency of the elements, the details they're judging.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing. The key word there is just, consistency. But I think you got to go a little bit deeper and probably have that conversation with the judges beforehand. Hey, look, really interview the judges, and based off of what they respond and how they respond, this might not be the best. You might not be our best person for this based off of just how you're answering these questions. Nothing personal, but we're looking for a more specific type of judge at this point in time to be really knowledgeable about what's going on. So good points.
And fire celebrity judges. Fire all celebrity judges.
No celeb judge. No celeb judges, huh?
What about Nick Cannon? He can't judge?
He can't play.
Exactly.
Clyde, weak.
I'll piggyback off of Clyde, and basically, I'm just gonna say what Clyde is saying. You can't have a judge that's you got to have a judge that knows what they're listening for, and have to make sure that the judge has studied both sides of the spectrum. And if you as a judge have never listened to an adjudicator's video for DCI, anything like that, and to know what to look for, doesn't matter, like he said, it doesn't matter what you're playing. Execution, cleanliness, the moves, if everybody looks alike, all that should go into detail on why Drumline should win. Like Clyde said, it shouldn't be off for one snare solo, or it shouldn't be off the if Norfolk go out there and they do the quint blast that everybody's loved for years on years, but the rest of the show was dirty, and we're gonna give them that just because they did that. That's just totally wrong, and you really hurt. What you're doing is you're hurting our culture more than you're helping it, because you're only bigging up your feelings about the situation of one part instead of just being honest, because now that section doesn't know that their section was dirty. They know they won, and you can't tell them nothing else. They won, and you can't tell them that they were dirty. Well, we wasn't dirty because we won. Well, no, I mean, I just want to talk about it. No, we won. You told us we won, and that's just it. So we got to really, hold these judges accountable. And I'm a judge, and a lot of people call me out from different states, and it's just because I know and I've studied, and I've even talked to the people that brought me out about certain styles, and I talked to all these guys from Clyde to Paul to Miko, and just about different sections, what they doing. I probably talked to 10 drum instructors from colleges on just what they're doing, and where they want to take their line, and everything like that. And you got to have somebody knowledgeable on every aspect. So the way that we're talking about bumping, if we're having a competition and then Jackson State's coming up there, the judges that you think that you had needs to be like Ricardo said, needs to come to a situation of, hey, do you know what they're bringing to the table? Have you looked at Jackson? Have you studied them? Do you know that they will change the tempo, or they will change the feel of a cadence at the drop of a dime, but everybody will be on tempo, and it will still go on. You have to understand that. So when you're sitting there bobbing your head, and then all of a sudden they go to something else, you can't be like, oh man, y'all timing off. Y'all need to get a metronome. Like, you got to understand those nuances of every section and what they do. So you really, your adjudicator has to be a fan of everybody. And you got to take out the bias. I mean, I know Keon gonna say it. You got to take out the bias on where you come from and all that other stuff. So at the end of the day, judges can't be biased, and they got to know each section that's gonna be there.
I agree with all of that. I agree with all of it. And your judges got to be them guys. Let's just put it all out there. They got to be those guys. They have to be the ones that can judge you off of what you give. That's how a lot of I've judged numerous of competitions, and I've been with different types of judges to where sometimes they ask me at the end, they ask me after another drumline then went on, like, what you think about them? You know what I'm saying? Or what you scored them. You know what I mean? I might score a drumline of 93 because they was consistent. I had this same situation happen to me in Virginia. There's this drumline called King's Fort, out of Virginia, and there's Shark City, which I think is like I guess it's a community drumline. I picked, my score was higher for King's Fort over Shark City, and the judges was like, "Dang, why you scored him? Why you scored him like that?" I looked at it a little bit different. I said, "It doesn't." I said, "Shark City played harder material, but it was dirty."
I think,
So the execution.
let me chime in. I think I probably would have had a question, and not verb. I would have questioned myself if I said, "What do you mean looked? You looked. You didn't listen. You looked. You know, I mean, what exactly are you trying to get at when if they said, hey, look, why would you look at them like that? Or I looked at them a certain way. Well, I'm not looking.
Oh, not visually. When I say look,
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you think about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you view them? What did you feel about their show? So when I looked at it, when I listened to them so that everybody be locked in, I felt Shark City played harder material, but it was dirty as crap from every section, snares, sixes, and basses. So my score for them was lower than the score I gave King's Fort because, like he just said, they were consistent all the way around the board, all around the board. It didn't matter how hard the material was that the other line was playing, they just wasn't consistent. They was dirty, consistently dirty, versus a line that's playing your mediocre stuff, but are very consistent with what they're doing. Everything's locked in and all of that. Yes, I still wrote on the judges sheet, maybe try to up your material a little bit, up your difficulty a little bit more. You know what I mean? Just to give them that type of insight. But it's the fact that, like he said, it's consistency over quality. Like, you can play a lot of stuff dirty. You can play a lot of stuff dirty versus the drum line that plays some of the simplest things clean as crap. Now, if you judging off difficulty, then you have to go into what they give now is section judges sheets, where you can judge a subcategories, where you judge a full drum line, and then you judge, okay, how was the snares? How was the basses? Tenors, cymbals, multi-tenors. Yeah, your drum line lost, but your sixes was good. That's when he mentioned about Norfolk State. Everybody was like, Norfolk is the best drum line in the world off of a sixes solo. And they had their drums off. So I didn't understand how everybody was like, they the sickest drum line out right now. I didn't understand that, me personally, because they was just like, yo, these sixes are amazing. But a dude dropped his drumstick in the show. A dude ran out there and got it. When I'm judging the drum line, I'm going to judge off of recovery. So how you drop your stick and how you get your stick is how I'm going to judge you. I'm not going to judge the drop stick. I'm going to judge your recovery and how did you get it and how did you continue to do what you was doing. So I think, me personally, your judges got to be like, I'm going to judge you off of what you give me. If you're not consistent and I can see that and hear that, then I'm going to judge you off your inconsistency. But if you come out there and you cold, you can be a swag. You can Jim Hill. I don't know what year it was, but they won nationals. You know what I'm saying? And it was a lot of drum lines in nationals, a lot of different style of drum lines. But they won because of consistency, not because of who they were. So I think when you picking them judges, they gotta be them real dudes. They gotta really know the difference between the two styles, approach, consistency, all that. They can't be like, oh, I'm SWAC and them dudes was bumping. Oh, they was doing a lot of rim shots. So I don't know if I'm gonna give them a 95 or give them a 25 out of a 30. I'm gonna give them a 6 because they wasn't doing too many rim shots. You know, nah, don't do that. That's just me personally. So judges got to be on point.
Beware of the judge that give 100s.
Beware.
If you are a judge and you give 100s, you need to stop judging.
Stop judging.
So quick question before Mika respond.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked this in the chat. Everybody pick 4 judges. Starting with Clyde. Who's your one judge?
Jeez, I mean, come back to me. That's a hard one.
All right, Trice, you next.
They name my 4 judges.
No, you name one. You're one. Everybody gonna name one.
If I had to name one, can we name ourselves?
Hey, that's you.
Yeah, I'm naming myself.
Okay. Keon,
Myself,
Miko.
Yeah, initially, in my mind, I'm thinking Trice, man. Trice is probably one of the most unbiased guys I know, man.
Somebody different. Somebody different. Gotta get you. Gotta get
Somebody
you.
other than Trice?
Yeah. Who's your second? Number 2.
Number 2. Give me,
Who?
give me Crow.
Okay.
Give me
Ike. Okay.
Isaiah.
Right. You left.
Everybody said themselves. That boy's so arrogant. Stop. No, Trice, I was gonna go with Trice too. Trice is real cool. Even though he used to talk a lot of trash, he's really unbiased. But I would say Ron Brown. I say Ron Brown because he's one of the most unbiased people that I know when it comes to percussion. I don't say that just because he's my percussion instructor, but he kind of like trained me off of trying to have the unbiased eye. You know what I'm saying? And looking at execution because that would give us longevity in the game. So, and I know his introduction into HBCUs with up in North Carolina, being on some panels with him and listening to his conversation and how he was judging the community, it was real unbiased. It was real on a real even playing field. So I would say Ron Brown from Carolina Storm.
Okay. Rick, you got something?
No, man, that was pretty much it, man. Everybody pretty much articulated, that question. And I think that's a really important question because we all
Well,
have
hold
seen.
on. I don't think Miko never did answer. He didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Miko.
Yeah, I think you should vet the judges for sure. I think the judges should definitely know who's performing. So, like you said, if Norfolk is there, of course they should who Norfolk is. If Jackson is going to be there, they should be, aware of who Jackson is. I definitely agree with the consistency piece. I definitely agree with the cleanliness piece. And I guess the choreography of the show, I guess, like the staging of everything, the formations, whatever. Like, I think all of that stuff matters when it comes to that type of thing. Also, though, I think that there should be some type of separate competition that you judge that's like actually legit, like instead of taking one snare drummer from each school. I think you should do each snare line, like, or quint line, whatever, but definitely the snares because I love snares. Like I would love to just see on the drum A&T in front of, I don't know, Valley, or A&T in front of Jackson, Norfolk in front of PV, like I would love to see that exchange and we actually see what's really happening on these drums and to see what's really like, not how hard things are, but like how clean these people are, the thinking behind this stuff. And like we judge that as well. I think that's something that I would love to see in a competition. So quint snares, basses not so much. I mean, unless we're talking tonals and tonals, but drops, I don't care for that. Tenors, they could do that outside. But quints and snares for sure. Like let's really have a real competition and see, who's doing what for real.
Oh, point well taken. Thank you.
All right.
So,
go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, my friend.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so You guys have, through all of our questions and the time that we've taken, you guys have really laid it out there and talked about some good points. So we pretty much come to the close. And before we do come to the close, now I think, you guys have any questions for Elijah and myself in regards to
I would say
how,
no questions, rebuttals. Get it all out.
yeah, any rebuttals?
Yeah, this is it. Who you want to
Hey
start with? The
man,
youngest? The youngest first? It might be Miko, I
I
think.
think I'm the youngest out here. Uh, I'll put Texas Southern and Jackson in front of any line in the MEAC.
Oh, oh, wow.
The only questionable battle that I think would occur is Norfolk. Everybody else, it'll be a toss-up.
Okay, so you got Texas Southern, put in Texas Southern up against any drumline in where?
In the Mia.
Yeah.
In the MEAC.
Okay. All right. It's good. Good drumline. Trace.
What we doing? Rebuttals?
Oh, whatever. We signing off. We coming to an end. Anything you got left you didn't mention or want to say?
I would say just both conferences, man. Like, for everything that we talked about, don't take it as a personal hit. Take it as uplifting. I'm always about uplifting. I don't care who battle, because as cold as Jackson can be, they can be dirty that day, and we can look at them totally different. So at the end of the day, the only way to make sure that you go into that battle tested, and I would say right now, and not in the SWAC, the most battle tested drumline that I've known for these past years is Lane. The most battle tested. That means that they go in and out and will go to any battle and will go up against anybody. It is no excuse or anything. And Lane is not in the SWAC, but they are distant cousins, if you can say that. But man, uplift the same thing, man. Take this whole conversation and take it into yourself. If you're a percussion instructor, or if you're the section leader of your line, and really dig into what you can do this next year, because I know a lot of people is going to look totally different this coming fall. So really, really, take these conversations, and a lot of this what's saying is like, hey, maybe we need to go back to fundamentals. I know we plan this, but maybe we need to make sure that y'all understand what these rudiments are. And then the SWAC, hey, let's throw some of these solos in our cadence. They might go good with our cadence. All right, let's speed it up a little bit. We don't want to make everybody go to sleep outside. All right. So, just take these conversations and really, uplift what you can do. Because that's the only way that this is ever going to get, and at the end of the day, we're just going to be talking. But the only way for us to make sure that this keeps going is if every section take accountability in what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to be going. That's my sign off.
Good.
Let me go back right quick.
Tell me go back.
No. I need for like more SWAC schools to actually look at what's happening outside of the SWAC overall, like even when it comes to symbols, like these symbols, yeah, they do good with the grooves, but like if they take a listen at Norfolk symbols, like these guys are actually playing stuff, like things you probably never would think would be played on by a symbol line. These things are being played. So I think the takeaways from each other, like I know the MEAC is not too fond of looking at the SWAC for things, but they could learn something. They could learn a groove or two.
Cool.
Everybody just needs to get better. Like, stop looking at one school and, just like he said, stop clowning Norfolk cymbal players because they got 16s or 18s, and start listening and like, oh, they did play them Hertzes. That whole cymbal section played them Hertzes with their cymbals. There's a lot of them, you know what I mean? On the cymbals. That's what they do. And then MEAC schools, stop clowning how they tenor drums play in the SWAC. Like, everybody just stop clowning everybody. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, take what you like and implement it. That's it. Like the genre funk is a lot of different styles of playing all in one. Like it's just what it is. And I just really think that everybody can really learn from every single line in some way, shape, form, or fashion. SWAC schools, like Migo said, play a little faster. You know what I'm saying? Implement drum parts stack with the snares, or quads implement some more technicality. You know what I mean? Or MEAC drum lines be a little bit more simple on certain stuff. You don't have to whirl on your cadences. You know what I mean? Simplify a little bit. But I will say this, and some people ain't gonna like it. There are no excuses for this upcoming season for nobody drumline. You do not get a pass from Keon this year. Nobody. Because even if your drumline individual, can y'all hear me? Yeah, as an individual, you should have been practicing. I know there are some colleges, universities that were in rehearsal, like A&T was, Norfolk was, a few other schools were. The SWAC, they had opened up a little bit, started practicing a little bit more. But this upcoming season, there should be no excuses from nobody. From nobody.